for more on that story now. We're joined by Cigdem Nas. She's an Associate Professor of Economics at Yildiz Technical University and specialises in EU-Turkey relations. So sounds like the perfect person to talk to in terms of this topic. Thank you so much for your time, Cigdem. Obviously, Turkey is standing very firm on this. They don't want to budge on their anti-terror law. Why are they so loath to change it? And what does it mean for them if they do?
Yes. Of course, the main issue is Turkey's fight against terror, both against the PKK and also against the Islamic State organization. So it's a very sensitive issue these days, and every day we have people losing their lives, soldiers losing their lives in the let's say conflict. So in such a sensitive situation, it's difficult for the government, let's say, to make any changes to the anti-terror law. However, of course, I think a common ground can still be found because, I mean, the EU does not interfere with Turkey's fight against terror or its anti-terror legislation, but it wants some revisions in that legislation. So I think at the end of the day, some kind of consensus may emerge if the two sides continue negotiations.
So tell us more about these key revisions. I know that some European leaders and rights groups say that Turkey uses the laws to stifle dissent. Where are these ambiguities here? And there was one thing to say perhaps that there's this law in place, but where are the ambiguities in terms of how Turkey uses this law, especially in regards to freedom of expression, freedom of the media, that sort of thing?
Yes. The EU has some concerns regarding, as you said, the anti-terror legislation and its implementation with regard to the right to life and right to liberty and freedom of expression and freedom of association and freedom to protest. And sometimes, as we have seen in the recent period, some people who were not directly involved with terror were accused within the framework of the anti-terror legislation. And according to the EU understanding, this is let's say, a gray area between freedom of expression and support to terror or terrorist organizations. And I think what the EU wants from Turkey is to have a narrower definition of terror, only to involve or invoke the law against people who are directly involved with the terror organization or directly involved in terrorist acts. So I think this is something that is in line with EU standards. It is also in line with the Council of Europe standards, and Turkey is already a member of the Council of Europe. So in a way, Turkey is expected to, let's say, to fulfill also these standards. However, of course, for the government, what is difficult is to make revisions in the legislation just when there is such a ongoing active fight against terrorist organizations. So there is maybe some political risk involved. However, of course, at the moment we see declarations on both sides, and both sides are trying to stick to their position. So I think at the end of the day, maybe they will speak more about it, and maybe a negotiation process will follow this. It will be difficult for the government, and since we also foresee a change in government in Turkey in the coming days because of the change in the ruling party, so it may be difficult politically to do that, but it is one of the criteria for visa liberalization. So the European Parliament is especially very keen on seeing changes to the anti-terror legislation. So we'll see how this, let's say, how this issue will evolve in the coming days.
Certainly a vulnerable time, isn't it? And there's a lot at stake here. Thank you so much for your time, Cigdem. Cigdem Nas for us there.